Got the public event system working. So the cursor here, which is a BP player, mostly the cursor from crop out, will be listening for a click here, and then it turns off. So it actually creates a bug too, so I can go beyond this boundary here. So that's neat. Discovered a bug there. But yeah, so I have this system and we can arbitrarily listen or subscribe to all these different events, and it doesn't really matter what the entity type is, and they don't have to have a direct reference to each other. So that was really difficult to make because the way that arrays are stored and the way that you capture objects aren't the most intuitive. So what we have is a subscribe, we cast it, and then we add it to a global array of object refs. And so we do this because if you put it inside of a struct and you keep rebuilding it, somehow, for some reason, the references can get lost. So it's easier to track like an ID than it is and regenerate that list of IDs. So I never figured out why the list of references were getting corrupted or messed with. So I just stopped trying, and now I just store it here, and it doesn't change. We only add things to the list. But over here, we do grab a list of IDs for all these different subscribers and then stuff it into the array. But we have to clone the existing array um, by creating a brand new buffer. And the issue came with creating the buffer, surprisingly. So all those other crazy stuff worked fine. But when it came to making the buffer, I had to do something like this. So what's confusing about this and complicated is that you have to make an array inside of the same blueprint that you plan to manipulate it in. So like if I'm planning to manipulate it here and subscribe, then this blueprint needs to be responsible for that variable. So it has to be in the scope here. So I put it a local variable, and this allows us to declare like an arbitrary length, which is what I needed because I needed to create a variable of unknown length to live behind this map here. And so I came really close to just putting like a fixed array buffer because I couldn't figure it out. But that's ultimately what got it to work. There's a bunch of approaches here that I tried. I tried like 20 something different methods. And in a nutshell, the first method looks something like this, where I would make an array literal, or yeah, make an array and then stuff some stuff in here. But what I didn't know at the time was that this is misleading. Like it looks like you can just add stuff to this array or to these arrays, but you can't. So as soon as I create this array here and run clear on it, well, it still has a length of 1 and the value is still set to whatever it was, in this case 0. And there's no changing that. But these methods don't fail. So this add, this clear, you think it works, but until you log it all out and see that it's actually not changing. So I started tinkering a little bit more and tried using append, same deal. Effectively, this make array is poorly named, but it should be called like make static array or make fixed array. And that was basically the core of my problem. It's like I could not, you shouldn't use these. The only thing these are good for is for truly static cases. So you know that you need to iterate over very specific values and they can be constant. But even though you get this array of integers, it doesn't actually function like a variable declared over here on the left. So this one worked here, so I declared a regular variable in the blueprint, and this works. So doing the same exact thing will work. You can add to it, and it'll behave like you expect. There's local variables, which I mess around with in here. So I try the same thing, but instead use a local variable for a function, and that works. But it's limited. Like I said, it only works within the scope of the blueprint. So if you try and take it out into like I tried to make a utility function, and the utility function it runs, but it doesn't produce the same result. So this guy here is the same exact code as the make local int array here, which is being used for my subscription system. But if I try and move that utility function out, and same thing, local variable here, this doesn't work the same. So it has like reference issues. And so you go to manipulate the elements later, using the same exact code, and it just won't work. So if you want functioning behavior, it has to be done inside of here, which is feels like a trap. Like it's just pretty much no way to know that know whether or not something will work. So yeah, I have this guy, and that's what's getting it to work at this point. And all of that amounts to inside of the HUD, we can subscribe to these arbitrary events, and so it's listening for the match button press, and so that it'll slide this guy out whenever that happens. Which let me see, where is that? Okay, so over here. Yeah, so wait for the match button press, and we check what state it's on, and then we mess with the widget and the animation. And to make it smoother, you can grab the current animation time, and so if it's like in the middle, oh, it's actually kind of hard to click. If it's like in the middle of animating, then it'll animate back from where it is. There's a way to glitch this out though. Yeah, like that. So if you press it too close to the beginning or the end, then it can like clip to the beginning or end of the other animation. So that's the only caveat, but otherwise it's pretty cool. So I can mess with that and like prevent it from being clicked like too early or too late, and that would stop that snapping. But stat snapping right there. And then the other thing that's subscribing is BP player, and so this guy is, yeah, so when that match button is pressed, we don't want it to update move anymore, which also breaks the boundary, so I need to fix that. I want it to hide the cursor, because when it's in the background, we don't need to see it moving around, so I want it to go away. And then, yeah, that's it. What else is there? I guess the subscription, the initialized subscription here is, yeah, I think I have a lot of debugging, because I thought that maybe it was crashing because it was subscribing twice, which it wasn't. I got to delete all this stuff, but yeah, got it working. So now I can just build upon this and add other things to this, and that should be a good base to work from. But man, it was a lot more boilerplate than I had anticipated, and just kind of move forward from here.